Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to show you guys how I designed and built this 3D printer filament storage box that you can print directly out of. One of the things that was important to me was to be able to monitor the humidity levels inside the storage box and also to be able to tell when the filament was low. So what I got here is a 3D printed storage box with a viewing window on the lid, and I'll go ahead and take this thing apart and show you guys all the components. Inside we got the spool roller and this spool centering device I picked up on Thingiverse. I'll link it in the description for those of you guys that want to use it. And it works great. I use these on all my 3D printers. It has a collar that fastens the two halves that go around the stock Creality spool holder. But this design is awesome. Creates very little drag because it only has two contact points over here on the roller. So it rolls real nice, but doesn't roll so much that the filament unwinds. So that's one of the things I really liked about it. This part I designed in Onshape and 3D printed along with all the other components of the enclosure. What we have here is one of the spare couplers that comes with a lot of these Bowden tube kits. They'll usually bring two different sizes. This is the smaller one that has a 6mm by 1.0 pitch thread. Since I replaced my stock Bowden tube on my Ender 3 V2 with a Capricorn, I went ahead and made use of this one. This is the original one that came with the machine. And I also created a plug here on the end that doubles up as a filament keeper and also a way to seal off the end of the Bowden tube. So let me show you how that works. I just feed the filament in through here, and now that it's coming out of the top, so what you do is you push the filament part in first, and then push your whole thing onto your Bowden tube, and that will seal it. But also when you pull this thing out, the filament will stay attached to the lid, so you can easily load this onto your printer. So let me get into all the elements of creating your own. We'll start off with the design process in Onshape, and then I'll show you how it all goes together. Hey guys, so this thing's been running for about 3 days now. It looks like it's close to being completed. That little port there at the top is the where the filament is going to come out from. It looks like we're almost there. Maybe a couple more hours and should be good to go. Looks like I got something on one of my rollers because you see that line, that artifact going across the front of it. And this thing probably could have been made thinner. It's just over 1/4 of an inch thick. I wanted it to be robust so that I could seal it with a lid. I didn't want it to flex on the sides. But it did consume quite a bit of filament, about 749 grams. And that's just the bottom section. Still have to do the lid. All right, I'll give you guys an update when it's done. Hey guys, I just wanted to point something out. So this has been about a 3-day print, and it's getting ready to wrap up here in a little while. But look at my nozzle. So if your nozzle is all caked up and filled with filament, that's a good indication that you're printing too low. So you can see that it's extruding right there at the very tip, and the nozzle's not dragging down into the filament that I already printed. Anyway, that's how you want your nozzle to look like at the end of a print. If it's all caked up and filled with filament, then that's a good indication that you're printing too close to the bed. These are the parts that we're going to need for this assembly. What we have here is the 3D printed storage box itself. This is the lid. You have the trim for the piece of glass that sits inside. We have a piece of glass that is 3/32 of an inch thick, about 3.5 inches wide by about 5 1/16 of an inch long. We're also going to need a ThermPro digital indoor thermometer. This also has a humidity. We're going to need a glass cutter, a number 2 Phillips, a small Phillips. This I believe is a number 3 Phillips. We're going to need 14 3mm by 8mm long screws, and these are metric. We're going to need 4 washers to fit these screws. We're also going to need 4 coarse thread 2mm by 8mm long screws with a pan head. This Thingiverse file that I'll include in the link. And what I recommend is when you guys are going to print this file out is to increase the X and Y percentage by 1%. So it would be 101% on X, 101% on the Y, and leave the Z alone. For these two parts, that'll widen the part in both directions a little bit so it will thread easier onto these threaded parts. Otherwise, it's a very tight fit. The spool holder. We have the trim for the outside of the storage box, a Bowden tube and filament cap, the original Bowden tube that came with the 3D printer, and the spare pneumatic coupler. We also need some wire harness tape. This is a cloth tape that we're going to use to line the edge of the lid to promote a better seal, and the number 3 screwdriver, and some desiccant. Now this desiccant is color changing and they say that it's very toxic, so handle that with caution. I would use a respirator when you're going to pour this into the box and some rubber gloves. If not, you can probably make a pouch with it and just set it on the bottom. Guys, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, turn on your notification bell, share the video with people that are interested in 3D printing. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. And leave some comments. I love reading the comments, and I do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, we're going to start with the assembly of the cover with the glass insert. So what I did here on the cover is I went around the edge with some of this cloth tape. So I started along this back edge, went all the way around, and then folded over the extra tape, cut it along the inside, flush with the inside. And the reason for the tape is to create a better seal and a tighter seal to the bottom part of the storage box. I'm just going to wipe the fingerprints off my glass here real quick. And I'm going to get the 3mm by 8mm screws. Next thing we're going to do is get our Thermopro. And then you're going to need the number 3 Phillips for this one. Remove the 4 screws from the back. Now this trim is going to have these little tabs, these plastic tabs on the side here. So let me get you guys in close so you can see what I'm talking about. So these plastic tabs right here, you have to push them out. You have to push them out and then lift up on this little trim here and do it all the way around the corner. So there's 4 of them, one on the bottom, one on each side, and then one at the top. I'm just going to try to get my fingernail underneath the plastic piece and then move the little tab back. And that will release each of the tabs. This is what you want. You want it to be completely free of the outside trim. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to take our new trim and we're going to place it on top of this part right here. So just line it up, and then it'll press in. Just like that. Okay. So once you have it pressed in, then go ahead and put the back cover on. Just like that. Yeah, you gotta fiddle around with them a little bit till they find their spot. And you don't want to over tighten these because they don't go in very far. Just snug them up. And now's a good time to put the battery in. So I'm just going to put the battery in. Okay, so now we're ready to install it in the box. So what we're going to be using here is the 3mm by 8mm long screws with the washer. Just put a washer on. You're going to grab this like this, hold it on the front, and then put the screws in one at a time. I'm not going to tighten them all right away. I just want to get them on there. That way everything will line up. And guys, I'll provide the STL files for all of this stuff free for download in the description. If you guys want to make this, let me know how it turns out for you. All right, next thing we're going to put on is the pneumatic fitting. So that goes on the front here. Now I pre-tap this with a tap that I have, but you can just screw it in by hand. You would just need to put a socket on this or use a small wrench and just turn it in. Just snug it up. It doesn't have to be crazy tight because the plastic threads will strip. I'm going to put the Bowden tube on next. So this just presses in. That's it. Next thing we're going to do is assemble the roller. So grab one of your Thingiverse printed parts. Place a roller in it. Put the other half on top. Grab your collar, and the collar holds these two pieces together. And it's important that you print this 1mm, 1% bigger, so 101% on the X, 101% on the Y. That way it will screw on here easily. Otherwise it's super tight. And that's pretty much it. I'll put some desiccant in here, so I'm going to go ahead and put some desiccant in here. Take my spool of nylon, load it on the roller. And the reason we're doing this is because nylon absorbs a lot of moisture from the air. So we gotta make sure we store it in some type of a airtight environment that has some desiccant in it to absorb any moisture that might be in this space. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to cut the end here. Put it through my Bowden tube. And then I'm gonna seal up the end. I'm gonna put my little cover, my little cap on. So I'm pushing the filament into the cap first, then pushing the cap onto the end of the Bowden tube. That'll seal it up. Again, on this edge, I did the same thing. I used that cloth tape that's made for car wiring harnesses to create a surface that this lid can seal on. And just take your cover and press it down. It's a real snug fit. That's it. So right now it's showing that the inside of the box is 39%. All right, guys, so I put it outside in my car. It's a sunny day out today, and temperature in the car was pretty hot. So after about an hour of being out in the car, Here's the current humidity inside the storage box. So it looks like it warmed up the air and the filament inside of the storage box to the point that it released whatever moisture was trapped in there, and then the desiccant captured it. So currently inside the box it's 10%. Inside the box temperature is 49.2 degrees Celsius, and I just brought it inside. So anyway, this thing is ready to go. So we can hook this thing up to the printer right now and start printing with it. I'll probably do that in my next video. That way you guys can see me print some stuff out of nylon. All right, guys, thanks for watching.